control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthology with your host Mark. I'm joined by Sam today. Hi Sam.
Hey.
Right, so it's Night Gallery episode 3.
Yeah.
In fact, I say that episode 2 because the first one was actually the pilot, so this is actually the second episode of the season 1. So this one had 3 episodes in, didn't it? First aired on the 23rd of December, just before Christmas. 1970. Let's just go through one by one, I think. The first one was directed by a chap called Gerald Freeman, written by Hal Dresner, who I don't recognise that name. And it features a very young Diane Keaton. Do you know Diane Keaton's work?
I know of her.
Yeah, I mean, she's her most famous role is probably in Annie Hall, which won the Oscar in 76. I think she won the Oscar. I could be wrong, but she's pretty good and quite charismatic. She's been in things for years. I mean, if you really go, most recently, and this is still going back quite a bit, probably stuff like Father of the Bride, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, stuff like that. She's good physical comedian, good dramatic comedian. She was a really significant character in The Godfather first 2 films as well, for example. But yeah, in this, she's a fairly young nurse. A bit of a flake, isn't she, in this? Now, She's looking after this invalid guy, played by Joseph Wiseman. Did you recognise him for anything? Because we have seen him in something.
He looked familiar.
I'll give you a clue, see if you can guess. James Bond bad guy.
Oh, he was Dr. No.
He was Dr. No. And if ever you listen to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, he always revels in the fact that Joseph Wiseman, who's a Jew, and Gilbert Gottfried can say things like this because he's a Jew as well. Yeah. He loves any film where a Jew is playing someone from a different race. He thinks that's hilarious. And Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No particularly tickles him. He's supposed to be Chinese, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Dr. No. So he's in bed, sort of talking to his nurse, talking about his wife. But he kind of he's saying a few snarky comments, isn't he, here and there? Then he starts talking about the nurse to her about her boyfriend, doesn't she? And like how some woman started kind of flirting with him, and she kind of felt a temper rising, and she wondered if she could control it. And all
they straight up say she mutilated someone because a woman was flirting with her boyfriend.
Yeah, well, it's not
brutalized her. No, they do say it's like she wasn't very pretty after you got done with her. So
yeah, I think that was just an exaggeration, though, or turn of phrase. But then his wife comes in and she's all very well, and I think they start Diane Keaton's character starts going about how beautiful his wife is, and he's going, yeah, I'm very lucky and all this. And she comes in, she's very well dressed and elegant, and she goes out again. And while he's talking to the nurse, he kind of gets out these binoculars, doesn't he? And starts like looking through the window, and he sees his wife smooching with is it the chauffeur? But the chauffeur's her boyfriend. The
chauffeur is the boyfriend.
Is the boyfriend, right? And he sees them sort of at the car. Then he sees them through a window, and then he kind of gives the nurse. He gets his gun out and says, "Could you? Was it? Could you ask him to go clean it or something like that?
Yeah.
Um,
he wants it cleaned up because he doesn't use it anymore. Well, this is what he says. He doesn't use it anymore, so...
And she's saying, oh, it's really light. I wasn't expecting it to be really heavy. And he said, oh, it's a woman's gun. Stuff like that. And even before all this, they kind of hit the nail on the head, don't we? At one point, they're talking about her jealous rage. And she says, oh, it's a good job I didn't have a gun. She says something like that. And then he says, could you go give it to your, your fiance or your boyfriend to clean it for me? And then she leaves and he's kind of sitting back in the bed and we hear bang,
starts
bang.
eating his breakfast.
Starts eating his breakfast. And he says, and he makes some quips about, he's still got a way of getting things done or something like that. I can't remember the actual words. Yeah, it's a fairly lightweight one. Short as well, right? Did you enjoy this one?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah,
it did seem a bit too similar to the Crazy Husband one we saw in the last episode.
Do you think?
So,
yeah, I guess. That was which one was that? That was the witchcraft, the housekeeper. The housekeeper thing, yes, yeah. With Larry Hagman, yeah. I like this one. It was reasonably well done and well acted. Right, the second one was called The Little Black Bag, directed by Geno Schwartz, I think is how you pronounce it, who I believe was the man who directed Jaws 2, a much maligned film. He also made Supergirl, which is quite an appalling film, but kind of fun. But a few other things. But this was some early work from him. Written by Rod Serling, this one. You can kind of tell it's got Rod Serling's fingerprints all over it. But it was really cool to see Burgess Meredith, right?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Really
especially because we just finished Rocky,
different character completely. Again, Burgess Meredith showing his range. Burgess Meredith does pop up in a lot of these anthology stuff. He's in he's in some very famous Twilight Zone episodes. Certainly, a couple. And I've got a feeling he's in the Outer Limits too. But and I've got a feeling he did more than One Night Gallery as well. But we'll see. So he's an old drunk in an alley, but he's talking about Rod Serling. It's quite good at dropping in exposition that gives backstory. I'm not really explaining myself for it. Dialogue that gives good back. He says, "Don't I know you from the medical school? I used to know her, Hagenbug or whatever his name was. This old drunk guy who they fight over a bottle, don't they? And smash it out. So he's gone to the dogs. Really, he's a drunk. But we also see this kind of weird." Beginning story of the future with a very 70s version of the future in a robotic room saying, we've lost something to the time stream. We've lost a medical bag to the time stream. It's kind of goofy, right? And he finds this bag and they are about to go hock it when this woman says, "Can you help my little girl?" and all this. And he says, "No, ma'am, I don't practice. I've got a tour and stuff like that." And then he looks in the bag and he sees it says 2098 and he's kind of confused that he doesn't recognise the equipment and stuff, right? Oh, that happens before it goes in the Hulk shop.
Yeah, he's like, this must be some sort of modern finagling sort of thing.
Yeah. Because he's been out of medicine for 15 years, he's kind of not up with he says, "I'm sure I should have known about this kind of stuff." And he's joined by this other big drunk guy who's got a voice a bit like Phil Harris, who does Baloo. It isn't him, but he's got a voice very Baloo-like, kind of gravelly voice. But he's a proper drunk. He's saying, "Come on, we can get $8 for this." And all this. And the doctor's kind of... but he does go and help the little girl, but he starts reading through the tech and like, this is weird, and he starts being able to cure things. But then he cures a man in the like the DOS house where all the old drunks go to eat and stay. There's one man dying upstairs of cancer, and he says, "No, I can cure him." And he does, doesn't he? He can cures him with his stuff. It's a bit like someone finding the equipment from Bones and Star Trek. It's a bit like that. Isn't it? It's got all this, normal hypodermics, but they got little number rotators on them. And if he sets it to a certain number, it injects different drugs or whatever it is. So it's kind of funny. And then he starts going on about I'm going to present to like the medical council, and he gives a little speech to the other guy. What do you think would happen if I stuck this in my neck like a scalpel, and all this. It's kind of interesting because he's talking about the equipment kind of works out what it has to do and does it. You just put it in the right place and it does the work for you. And stuff like that. And he starts going about, if I stuck it in my neck, it wouldn't kill me, it'd cure me, or, stuff like this. But then it kind of, does he just drop out? And then the other guy turned up at the medical. I was a bit confused there.
No, I assumed he killed him.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. This guy kind of jumped, because he wanted to, they were talking about, that's worth $1 million. And he wanted a cut, didn't he? And they kind of argued about it. But then the other guy turns up in front of the medical council and starts giving exactly the same speech that Burgess Meredith was going to give about, putting it in his neck. And all these doctors are going, well, that'll kill you. And he's going, no. And then he says, well, we'll see. And then we go back to the future room and he says, we caught, it gave out an alert that it was being used for suicide. So we've recalled it on the time stream, which meant the bloke stuck it in his neck and it instantly disappeared. And then the doctors are going, why did this suicide come and bother us? They're not very sympathetic people, are they?
No.
So obviously the bloke accidentally killed himself by being too greedy. That was more.
I think I like the wording of the first guy that comes. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen someone look so surprised.
Yeah, that was kind of comedy. Tragedy, macabre, wasn't it? It was pretty kind of EC Comics, this one. It was based on the story. It wasn't an original story by Rod Serling. It was based on a short story by someone called C.M. Cornbluth. So maybe that was a comics. I'm not quite sure. But what do you think of this one?
I quite liked it.
Yeah, it was quite a good
one.
It
simple.
It was a good one.
A little bit of fun.
Yeah, and then we come to the last one called The Nature of the Enemy. Now, this starred Joe Campanella, who I quite like. He's been in a lot of TV stuff from the sort of late 60s and early 70s. And he recently died. At a very, at a ripe old age. But I've always thought he was pretty decent. And, this is not a great story, is it, really?
No. No.
But I mean, he does okay. He's the lead guy, the guy who's like running the show. Directed by someone called Alan Reisner. Written by Rod Serling again. So this, I don't know.
Well, all the rest of the episodes are written by Rod Serling. So
Rod Serling,
at least according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, Rod Serling pretty much wrote almost everything in this season, didn't he? Or his name's on it. Yeah, and this is not Rod Serling's finest effort, is it? Really? It's like, if this was a comic, this would be a 2-page, rim shot kind of, a bit like 2000 ADs. What do they call them?
Yeah, the thugs, not as future visions.
Something like that. Future shocks. It was one of those, really. It really felt like one of those. Essentially, NASA are wondering what's going on the moon. They get some message where they said it's a track. It's a track. What are they talking about? Or something like that. And then we finally get to it and we see a big structure. And it's a giant mousetrap. And there's a giant rat on the moon.
Yeah.
So the idea is the moon rats are catching men or something.
Maybe there's something bigger.
That's catching the moon rats.
See, I looked at it first and I thought it was like a lawnmower. Or like a terrain leveler?
I thought it was a pram. And then I realised what it was. And it's a big rat trap. Silly, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me a bit of like the Goodies Kit and Kong kind of stuff.
It was about that sort of quality.
Basically, they put an animal in a miniature set and slow the action down so they're moving slower to give it a different effect. But it really wasn't very good. So a bit of a dud, that last one, wasn't it? Which of the three did you like best?
Definitely the second one.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith really brings it, doesn't he? But I quite like the first one. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting Dr. No as well. I don't recall ever seeing him in anything else that I can think of. So it's kind of interesting to see that. So yeah, so fine. Yeah. So not a bad one. So okay, I think we'll kind of wind up. Any last thoughts?
Not really.
They didn't really.
Wasn't that good of a game. Not that good of an episode. So
No, they didn't really show much in terms of the art, did they? I can't actually remember any of the pictures. I just remember Rod Serling talking about it.
He had his usual walk around, but he just sort of. The pictures weren't very defined; they were very abstract, so you couldn't really tell what was going on in them. It wasn't like in the pilot where it was like a guy being burned at a stake or like a house.
Yeah,
it was just like vague shapes.
Right.
So it came across more like they just had some stock paintings, and they just could have applied them to any story, really.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. Okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll wind out there then. Not a great episode. The Little Bat Bag was probably the standout. No, I think the room review was okay as well, you know. All right then. So, bye from me.
Bye.
And until next time, is anybody out there?
We now return control of your television set to you. Until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to